Today we are going to discuss rhythm. First we're going to discuss how one notates rhythm in our system, and then we're going to show you how this notation system is used in showing us and demonstrating to us what rhythm is actually being performed. So first we're going to learn the symbols, and then we're going to see how we apply those symbols to writing accurate rhythm in our system. For this discussion, and when we discuss rhythm without any reference to pitch at all, we're not going to use our traditional tenor, treble, or bass clef, or our C clef. We're going to use what's called the rhythm clef, which indicates no pitch at all. It's just two lines behind the beginning of the staff. And this indicates that we're only discussing at this point rhythm, not pitch at all. And generally speaking, if we have nothing else on the staff, we notate directly in the center, and that indicates that on the middle line, we're talking about rhythm, and we're only talking about rhythm at this point, not about pitch at all. Having said that, if we have two voices and two sets of rhythms, generally speaking, we will notate one on the second line from the top and the other on the second line from the bottom, indicating two separate rhythms going on simultaneously. So that we should know first. So we use the rhythm clef when we're only discussing, and only wanting to concern ourselves with just rhythm, with the center line being where we use if we have only one rhythm going on, but if we have more than one, we tend to use the upper and the lower lines from the center line. Okay, so let's learn our values first and their duration values and how we discuss them. Now, when we talk about rhythm, we're talking about duration, how long something lasts and how often it repeats. We indicate duration by the value we have chosen. Our first value is a whole note. That is a circle with nothing in it, a whole note. Our second value is a half note, which is a whole line with a line in between it. Note, as with pitch, if it's in the middle staff and there's no context, line down. If there is context, line up. Would be appropriate for this. Line down is appropriate. Next would be our quarter note. That is a dot filled in with a line down. Then comes our eighth note, which has a flag on it, the flag in the direction of the pitch of the note head. Then comes the 16th note, and you see there are two flags. And our 32nd note, which there are three flags. And lastly, you will see four flags on a 64th note. So first whole note, then half note, whole note, half note. This is referred to as a quarter note. Quarter dash note is common. This would be an eighth note. This would be eighth note. This would be a 16th note. This would be a 32nd note and a 64th note. Once again, whole, half, quarter, 8, 16, 32nd, 64th. And those are our values, rhythmic duration values. Now, not only do we need to designate a rhythm and its duration, sometimes we have to designate when there is no rhythm, when there is silence, and we do it using, again, duration values. These are called rests. Rests indicates nothing is going on in that point. And we do need to know the duration and points where they begin, so we need notation for that. A whole note rest, that is a rest that lasts the same length as a whole note, is a hanging line underneath the second line. The hanging bar there below the second line. A half note rest, then, is the opposite direction, a raised little line above the middle staff. Our quarter note rest is written various ways in terms of how it looks on the page, but essentially it looks like that. That's the easiest way to do it. Make a quarter note rest by making what looks like an upside or sideways Z and a little line underneath that. You'll see that in notation it's a little more complex than that, but I think that's the most common variety. you see it. Our eighth note rest will then be a dot with a flag off it and a line down. So the flag down is in the opposite direction there. Our 16th note rest will be 2 flags and down. Our 32nd note rest will be 3 of those flags and down, and our 64th, 4 flags and down. So first whole note rest, hanging from the second line, half note rest raised from the middle line, quarter note rest, that kind of odd looking figure, 8th note, flag in the side, line down, always to the left there, 16th, 2 flags, 32nd, 3 flags, 4 flags for 64th. Now, these values are often what we refer to as simple values. That doesn't mean anything more than how we divide them. Either simply or complexly we divide them. Now, simple value means I divide in 2. And so these have proportional values. I can divide a whole note, a half note, a quarter note, a 16th note, I'm sorry, an 8th note, a 16th note, etc. into 2 smaller values. That means I can subdivide each of those values. These simple values divide into 2. And they divide into 2 of the next lower value. 2 of the next lower values. So my whole note can be divided into 2 half notes. A whole note equals a half note plus a half note. My half note divides into 2 quarter notes. So my half note is equal to a quarter plus a quarter. My quarter note divides into 2 eighth notes. That means my quarter note is an eighth note plus an eighth note. My eighth note divides into 2 sixteenths. Okay. So my eighth note is a 16th plus a 16th. My 16th note divides into 2 32nd notes. And often to indicate that you're looking at a division of a larger value, you will beam them together. They are beamed together there. Refer to that as beaming together. And that's 3 lines indicating 2 32nd notes, which are contained in as a subdivision of my 16th. My 16th divides into 2 64th notes. And I suppose technically speaking, a 64th note divides into 128th beats, but I've never seen that, so that's probably the lowest you're going to see. So once again, just to understand how this works, my whole note can be divided into 2 half notes. My half note into 2 quarter notes. My quarter note into 2 eighth notes, and they can be beamed together. My eighth note into 2 sixteenths, again they can be beamed together. My 16th note into 2 32nds. And as I said, technically a 32nd note can divide into 64th notes, and you're not going to see anything lower than that. It would be really kind of ridiculous at that point. So those are what we call simple values. Why do we call simple values? Because what we're doing is taking that value and hearing it simultaneously. We can hear that it divides into 2. So here's my value here, ta, ta. If I could divide it into ta, 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 ta. So if I'm giving sort of beats, it'd be 1, 1, 1, and 1, and it divides into 2 that way. So that's simple time. Now, sometimes we want to divide our length of time, our division, into even smaller subdivisions. And it works the same way. As we divide our rhythmic value, it divides to the next lowest level and in 2 in simple time. So if my if my whole note divides into 2 half notes, then if I further wish to divide, that would divide my half notes into two 16th notes. So, ta, 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 ta. Here I've divided my whole note into two half notes, and then I further subdivide into two eighth notes. And if I wanted to subdivide further, my eighth notes divide into 16ths. Here I can bar together so I can see them. And I would have, if I were hearing it this way, going backwards, tut, 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 ta, 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 ta. Okay, so each one of those doubles the value going up, and each one halves the value going down. And when we talk about beats, this will make a little more sense that each one of these will be heard and how many beats are going on, or how many subdivisions of a beat are occurring. The thing is, that is contextual. Now, let's talk about the other type of rhythm, which is referred to as compound rhythm. Compound rhythm implies that we are not subdividing by 2, but subdividing by 3. And to do so, we need other note values. We indicate that with a dot. So compound values are the same values you've seen before, but with a dot behind it. We have a whole note, what we refer to as a dotted whole note, a half note, which we refer to as a dotted half note, a quarter note, referring to a dotted quarter note, an eighth note, which is a dotted eighth, a dotted 16th, and a dotted 32nd, and technically it's supposed to be a dotted 64th note as well. These are referred to as dotted rhythms, and they imply not simple time, but compound time. Now here is the difference. This dot, those dots there, all those dots mean the same thing. It means take the value that precedes it and add to that one half of that value. So, for example, we know that a whole note divides into two half notes. Into two half notes. Therefore, a dot would say take the half of that, that is a half note, and add that to it. So a dotted half note is three. A dotted whole note is 3 half notes. Dotted whole note equals 3 half notes. Same thing applies. Dotted half note. We know that a half note divides into 2 quarter notes. That dot means take half the value and add it to it, so that's another quarter note. And so we know a dotted quarter note equals a quarter note. I'm sorry, a dotted half note equals a quarter note plus a quarter note plus a quarter note. So the dotted values take the value of the simple version of this value, that is a whole note, and adds to it 1/2 more, so that it divides into 3. How this comes out in terms of how we hear is, instead of hearing ta, 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 we divide in 3. Ta, 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 ta. And again, we need some context to understand that more, so just hold tight here and understand that compound time has a dot before it, or a dotted quarter note, for example. And a quarter note means that we divide that into 2. We have 2 eighth notes from the quarter note, and we add to that, because of the dot, 1/2 the value here, which is another eighth note. And so my dotted quarter note equals 3 eighth notes. Dotted 16th will, dotted eighth note will be 3 16th notes. Dotted 16th note will be 3 32nd notes, and so forth. Rests work exactly the same way. My dotted whole note rest is 3 half note rests. All right, my dotted half note rest is 3 quarter notes. My dotted quarter note rest is 3 eighth notes. My dotted eighth notes rest 3 16ths. My dotted 16th note 3 32nds, and my dotted 64th note would be, or 32nd note would be 3 64th notes. So once again, simple time, let's take the whole note, equals 2 half notes. Compound time, a dotted whole note, would be 3 half notes. Simple time, a quarter note, 2 eighth notes. simple time. Dotted quarter note. Being together, 3/8. Okay, so we have our idea of divisions. Now here's an important thing to realize: the difference between compound time and simple time, or to understand this, is that it only exists on the first subdivision. And we can show this how this works. If I divide my whole note into 2, I get, my dotted whole note into and divide this, it's going to divide in compound time into 3 half notes. However, what is my division of my half note? Well, that is 2. So my division in the second level is when I start to subdivide will be in 2, not in 3. That subdivision in 3 only exists so that we subdivide only that first level. My dotted quarter note, my dotted half note will be 3 quarter notes, but each one of those quarter notes will divide into 2 eighth notes. And we'll learn later how we want to, if we want to indicate subdivisions below that in 3, how to do that with using triplets and tuplets. Now, here's the important thing. That is how we notate music. We notate using those durations. However, those durations have no fixed time value. There's no fixed time value to it. It doesn't mean a quarter note is always, or an eighth note is always. Doesn't mean anything at all. We can use any one of those in our system, any one of those values we looked at as a beat. What we choose will tell us something about the music. But we can use any one. That's the flexibility of our system. I can designate that my beat, that is what I hear as the pulse of my piece, can be a half note, a whole note, a half note, a quarter note, and an eighth note. Out of any context, if I said my whole note's my beat, then my whole note is pop, pop, pop. But I'm going to say my beat now, and this tempo's half note, is pop, 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 pop. I'm going to say that my quarter note is my beat, pop, 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 pop. Or my eighth note is my beat, pop, 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 pop. No difference. My choice is I indicate the beat. And generally how we do that is we indicate on the top of a piece that my quarter note is a beat, and then a tempo that is 76, for example, quarter notes in a beat. Or my half note is my beat, and there are 48 of them in a minute, in a given minute. So either one of those is anything there can be used as a beat. And generally speaking, that tells us something about the music. For example, historically speaking, my beat is a whole note. A whole note. The music is probably very slow, probably historical, probably not something we see today in anything. It's probably historical, and it probably has a lot of really fast rhythms in a solo part. That's just the tradition. The beat is considered slow. The half note, the beat is also considered often slow, more majestic. And we're going to see probably less subdivisions like that, but more big, long, standing sounds, longer durations, and sort of dignified sound. It tends to be that way. The quarter note, as our beat, has become the default beat of our time. Almost all music industry uses this these days. Generally speaking, most composers of contemporary music use the quarter note as the beat, but that is purely contextual. It's purely this thing. We have chosen that, and that tends to be what we do because we're comfortable with that, and most music from the last 200 years last 100 years has chosen the quarter note as the beat, but it is not. There is no fast rule says you must have that. If your eighth note is the beat, and then we do see that, particularly historically. Generally, music means the music's pretty fast, and also it generally means that the difference between an eighth note as my beat and my eighth note as my subdivision is somewhat blurry. It could be I'm hearing da 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 da, or it could be da 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 da. It could be either one. Generally speaking, an eighth note implies music that's quite fast and often quite dance-like. But again, it's entirely contextual. I can't think off my head of too many pieces that have 16th note as a beat. That's certainly possible. Or 64th note can be a beat as well. Doesn't really have there is no fast reason. Generally speaking, though, in music of today, the quarter note is the beat, but not always. Now, of course, then dotted values can be, in compound time, our beat as well. So that today, generally speaking, the dotted quarter note is the beat. So it's 1, 2, ta, ta. We subdivided 3. Ta, 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 ta. But there are many pieces that have a dotted half note. Certainly a dotted eighth note is possible. It usually applies very fast music. Or music, again, where we don't really hear the difference between a subdivision and a pulse. It could be both. But the dotted, the most common, is going to be our dotted quarter note. Now, let's get these divisions correct so we understand how this works and how to hear this. I'm going to use the top staffs upward as my beat. So my beat is at a half note, that means I'm hearing ta, 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 ta. I've decided my beat, what is my pulse of my piece, is going to be designated by a half note. That means my subdivision will be designated by, my first division will be designated by quarter notes. So, my beat, ta, ta, ta. Ta, my subdivision, ta, 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 ta. If I'm doing further subdivisions, this is going to be then eighth notes. Lots of them. So, beat, ta, 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 division, ta, ta, in simple time, ta, 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 subdivision, ta, 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 I'm sorry, ta, 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 tucka, 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 tucka. All right, and I could even go 16ths to be just real quickly, tucka, 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 tucka. Those are my beats and my subdivisions. In compound time, and here watch very carefully what I do. My beat is divided in 3. So my pulse, I will choose as my dotted half note. Ta, 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 ta. My first subdivision, my first division will be in 3. Ta, 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 ta. And if I'm going to have further subdivisions, they will be in 2. Ta, 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 ta. So my subdivisions are in 2 as I descend beyond that first level of subdivision, which is in 3 in compound time. Now, that gives us our notation on how we divide our time between simple time, that is dividing our first division in 2, and compound time, dividing our first division in 3. How do we organize this? Well, in general, our music is cyclic. That means we have beats, and these beats are formed into groups. Groups of 2 or 3 or 4 or more. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, in 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there is a cyclic nature to our music, and this is true in many, many cultures, that music purposely repeats groupings of 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5, sometimes more, but mostly 2, 3, and 4. In our culture it's mostly 2, 3, and 4. How do we indicate that grouping? We do that with what we call a measure. A measure is the division of our staff into these groups of 2, 3, and 4 that are repeating. You do that by indicating a line. This line says, start the cycle again. So if we were in 2, 1, 2, we'd start here. This indicates the break, and we have a new measure, a new cycle. And so we have a division in 2. 1, 2, new line. 1, 2, new line. 1, 2. Ta, 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 ta. Were this in 3, this would indicate 3 beats in our cycle. 1, ta, ta, 2, ta, ta, 3, ta, ta. And if it were in 4, there would be 4 notes, 4 pulses in each measure. Tut, 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 tut. So a measure line separates the staff into separate measures, a designated measure, and each measure is a cyclic repetition of our beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This could also be if we were in compound time. No difference whatsoever. If our beat, instead of a quarter note, is a dotted quarter note, one, two, 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 3, 2. However, if there are 3 beats in the measure, it would be 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3. So in compound time, simple times makes no difference, but we're indicating the beats. The measure tells us how many beats are cyclically happening, 2, 3, and 4 being the most common. Now, as I said, this beat can be any duration. It can work in any fashion that way. How do we know how many beats we have? How do we know our subdivisions? How do we know what time we are in? We use a system to tell us called a time signature. A time signature at the beginning of a composition or a line of music or even a passage of music tells us 2 things. It tells us by using numbers, using 2 numbers, what the cyclic beats are, how many beats within a measure, how we are cycling, and what is the time, compound time or simple time. And there are 2 different ways of designating this, but we use our time signature as 2 numbers placed one on top of the other in front of the music after the staff. For example, if I have a 3 over a 4, this tells me something. Right away, in my head, I should see 4 should tell me that I'm probably in simple time. You'll see why in just a moment. The upper number tells me that I have 3 beats. 3 beats in my measure. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The lower tells me what is the value of those beats. In this case, 4, a quarter note. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So 3, 4 is often referred to as 3, 4 time. Will be 3 beats to a measure, and the quarter note is our beat. If it said instead of 3, 4, 4, 4, that would indicate 4 beats, and a quarter note is my beat. 4 beats in the measure, and each one of those beats is a quarter note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. Contrast that with 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3. And you see the difference between the 2. All right. However, the quarter note may not be the beat. I may instead have, for example, 3, 2 time. This would tell me there are still 3 beats to the measure, but now the half note is my beat. Similarly, if I saw 3, 8 time, I know I still have 3 beats to the measure. They'd be 8 notes. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. Now the one difference between this is that I see this time. It may be very much that this is fast music, and then I'm actually hearing this not 1, 2, 3, but hearing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There's a purpose ambiguity probably if I'm using that time. Okay, so that explains time signatures in simple time, or I can divide it in 2. That is the upper time, the upper number there, indicates the number of beats, and the lower indicates the value of the beat. Quarter note, eighth note, half note, etc. Compound time is notated differently. We need to know the difference. If I see this time, 6/8 time, generally speaking, I should already know that's compound time just because my brain kind of goes into that mode right there. Oh yeah, 6/8 time. Because otherwise that would be 6 beats to a measure, and the beat is an eighth note. Well, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, but you probably even in your own head started to bunch that together into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So this is probably indicating compound time, and telling us not the value of this is the beat, but the value that value is the subdivision. So here I have 6, in this case, eighth notes. 6 eighth notes. Now, if it is in compound time, then almost 99 times out of 100, 6/8 time will be compound time. That means I'm grouping these eighth notes not as my beat, but as my subdivision. And what I'm really hearing is 6 subdivisions, 6 divisions, grouped together in 3, as my beat. So I make a little math here, 6, and I divide that by 3, and I get 2, and I don't have 2 beats in this measure. That means these 3 are together, these are bound together, and that means I have 3 eighth notes, which is a dotted quarter note and dotted quarter note, and so my beat here is a dotted quarter. I take the top time, if it's in compound time, I divide by 3, and I see I have 2 beats. Since the subdivision is eighth notes, 3 eighth notes together is a dotted quarter note. Let's take another time to make this clear. Let's take 9/16, which is a time you might see. Right away, my brain's going to tell me that's compound time because 9 beats in the measure, I'm probably not hearing. 9 beats in the measure, that means it's probably 9 subdivisions of 16th notes. 9 subdivisions of 16th notes means probably this, if I'm designating these subdivisions, then probably I'm putting together compound time where I have 3 of those subdivisions in 1 beat. So 9 then, so I should go ahead and take 9 and divide it by 3, and I get 3 beats. I should have 3 beats in this measure. And since I know the 16th notes in compound time are grouped in 3s, 1, 2, 3 gives me a dotted eighth note. Dotted eighth note, dotted eighth note. And my beat is a dotted eighth note, not a 16th note, but 3 16th notes put together, a dotted eighth. So compound time, take a look at the, you take a look at the time, you say, oh, that's probably not 12 beats to measure. Instead, if I divide this by 3, I get 4 beats. I get 4 beats to measure. Eighth notes is my subdivision then. 3 eighth notes put together is a dotted quarter. And so at 12/8 time, I have 4 dotted quarters to the beat. One last thing that needs to be covered, and that is ties. If I have 2 values, and I don't wish them to be played separately, but I want them to be continued in one duration. So not 2 quarter notes, but 2 quarter notes in which I don't accent the second one. I have no duration there, just a continuation. I do so by a tie. I can do that 2 different ways, but I can indicate that with a tie as well. This means these 2 notes are tied together and represent one value. 2 eighth note or 2 quarter notes together would equal 1 half note. So these 2 things mean the same thing. A quarter note tied to an eighth note is a half note. We use this often when we are going over a beat. For example, if my time is 4/4 time, and I have quarter notes like that, and instead of playing ta, 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 I want to play this rhythm where I don't accent beat 2. Ta, 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 ta. Now there's 2 ways I can notate that. One is I can say, well, here is my quarter note and an eighth note. That equals, indeed it does, a dotted quarter, and followed by an eighth note and 2 eighth notes. Ta, 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 ta. Or I can put a tie between those two notes, and now I have a tied together value, a quarter note plus an eighth note. So anytime you see a tied value, that adds that value to what precedes it. And you can get quite complex sometimes. For example, If I had 3/16 notes and they're all in a beat, now I could tut 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 tut, and I wanted actually to have these two put together instead of tut 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 tut. I want nothing to happen there. Tut 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 tut. I could actually notate it that way. I can also notate it by adding those values together and using the name. So tie adds those two values together.